Okay, so picture this. You are sitting in a darkened movie theater.
Hmm.
You've got your popcorn. The trailers are just finishing up, and the main event starts. It's this massive sci-fi blockbuster set, maybe 20 years in the future.
Right.
What is the very first image that pops into your head when I say artificial intelligence?
Oh, I mean, if you're like most people,
Yeah,
or really anyone who's seen a movie in the last 30 years, you're probably picturing a robot.
exactly.
Maybe it's chrome. Maybe it has those glowing red eyes that seem to track you across the room.
Holding a laser rifle.
Holding a laser rifle, stepping on a human skull.
Right, the Terminator scenario.
Exactly. The idea that the machines wake up, they gain consciousness, they decide they don't like us very much,
Yeah,
and, well, it's basically game over for humanity.
yeah, which is, it's a great story.
It is the standard Hollywood narrative
Mm.
because it's dramatic,
Yeah.
It's terrifying, and it sells a lot of tickets. We really love the idea of a tangible enemy we could just fight.
Shoot a laser at.
Right. But if we're going to be serious about what's actually happening in the world of technology right now, that fear isn't just misplaced. It's actually actively dangerous.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it's a massive distraction.
A distraction. Okay, that's a pretty strong word when we're talking about the potential end of the world. You're saying we shouldn't be worried about Skynet at all?
I'm saying that while we are all staring at the front door, waiting for the killer robot to kick it down, we are missing what's happening right in the room with us.
Okay.
We are so busy worrying about robots rising up to kill us
Right.
that we are completely missing the fact that they are already rising up to take our livelihoods.
Wow.
And the kicker, we are standing on the sidelines cheering them on.
Because they make our shipping faster.
Exactly. Faster shipping, better search results, more accurate directions on our phones.
That is a much more subtle and honestly a much more unsettling idea. It's not a war of bullets.
Yeah.
It's a war of economics.
Exactly. And that is the core argument of the source material we are doing a deep dive into today. It's a book called Humans Need Not Apply: A Guide to Wealth and Work in the Age of Artificial Intelligence.
By Jerry Kaplan.
By Jerry Kaplan, yeah.
And just to give everyone listening a bit of background, Jerry Kaplan isn't just some, sci-fi writer throwing wild ideas at the wall to see what sticks.
Far from it.
He is a Silicon Valley insider. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's actually taught at Stanford University in their artificial intelligence department. So he's been in the room where these technologies are actually being built. When he says we're looking at the wrong threat, we should probably pay attention.
He has certainly seen the code, as they say. He really understands the mechanics of the beast. And Kaplan's argument is that we shouldn't be afraid of the Terminator. We should be afraid of the flash crash.
The flash crash. Okay, this is a perfect place to start because it really grounds this in reality.
It does.
This isn't theoretical at all. Take us back to May 6th, 2010. What happened there?
Well, it was totally normal, lazy afternoon in the markets. Traders were coming back from lunch, maybe feeling a bit sleepy.
Right.
The trading volume was totally average. And then suddenly, in a matter of literally minutes, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged nearly 1,000 points.
That is insane.
That's about 9% of its value. Just evaporated in the blink of an eye. Billions of dollars in wealth gone.
And then it bounced back almost as fast.
Almost as quickly as it fell, yeah.
I remember this vividly. People were panicking.
Absolutely.
The news anchors looked absolutely terrified on TV. They thought some massive geopolitical disaster had happened. Like, did a bomb go off somewhere? Did a major bank just collapse?
Was it the start of another Great Depression?
Exactly.
But nothing had happened in the real world. That's the key here.
Yep.
No bombs, no bankruptcies, no natural disasters. The sun was shining.
So what was it?
What happened was a battle between algorithms.
Okay.
At that time, about 60% of all trades were being done by high-frequency trading programs, what Kaplan calls synthetic intellects.
Synthetic intellects.
Right. These programs aren't looking at the fundamental value of a company. They aren't saying, oh, Apple has a good product and a solid balance sheet, let's buy the stock.
Right. They don't care about the iPhone.
They don't care at all. They are looking at market patterns, tiny fluctuations, and they are trading against each other at the speed of light.
So essentially, you had these AI programs getting into a fist fight in the middle of the stock exchange.
Basically, yes.
And the human economy just got caught in the crossfire?
Precisely. One algorithm executed a large sell order. Others reacted to that sudden dip by selling to minimize their own loss. Others saw an arbitrage opportunity, and it just created this massive feedback loop.
A chain reaction.
Exactly. It was fighting machines for fractions of a penny. But the collateral damage was the stability of the entire global financial system.
Wow.
And Kaplan uses this to set the stakes for the whole deep dive today. This isn't just about cool gadgets or better smartphones. This represents a fundamental shift in our reality. We're moving into an era where assets fight people.
Assets fight people.
Yeah.
That sounds really ominous. Can you unpack that a bit? Because usually we think of assets as things we own.
Right.
Like, my car is an asset. My house is an asset. My retirement fund is an asset. They don't fight me. They work for me.
Think of it this way. Historically, capital, so money, resources, land, it was inert.
Okay.
It needed labor to do anything at all. If you had $1 million in gold and you wanted to build a factory to make a profit, you couldn't just tell the gold to build it.
The gold just sits there.
Exactly. You needed to hire people. You needed labor. There was a dependency. Capital needed labor.
And that dependency is what gave labor some power. If the workers walked out, the gold just sat there doing nothing.
Exactly. But now, we are building systems that don't need us to run them. Capital is becoming totally decoupled from human labor. We are creating autonomous assets.
Autonomous assets.
Right. An algorithm is an asset, but it can act.
Yeah.
A robot is an asset, but it can work. These systems are designed to maximize profit for their owners, often at the expense of everyone else.
Without needing a lunch break.
Right. They operate on rules of efficiency that just don't care about human well-being. And without new rules, the 99% the people actually relying on a paycheck are going to lose.
Well, that is a really heavy way to start, but I think it's necessary to shake off that Hollywood image of the evil robot we talked about.
It is.
We aren't fighting a war for survival in a literal sense. We are fighting a war for relevance.
Very well put.
So today we're going to unpack this. For you listening, we're going to look at how Kaplan categorizes this new tech. He splits it into synthetic intellects and forged laborers.
Which sounds like a fantasy novel, I know.
It does, but it's actually incredibly practical.
It's a very useful taxonomy to really understand what's happening on the ground.
And we're going to talk about why this time is different. Because everyone always says, oh, the Industrial Revolution scared people too, but it worked out. We got better jobs.
We did.
But we're going to see why that logic might not hold up this time around. And finally, we're going to look at the solutions. Because Kaplan actually has some pretty radical economic ideas.
Very radical.
Things like job mortgages and a public benefit index.
It's a fascinating roadmap. It's basically the difference between a future that looks like Star Trek,
Yeah.
Unprecedented leisure and wealth, or
Yeah.
Mad Max, where we're basically fighting for scraps while the robots live in luxury.
I am definitely rooting for Star Trek, personally.
I think we all are.
So let's get into it. Section 1, redefining intelligence. Kaplan starts by taking a sledgehammer to what he calls AI theater.
AI theater.
What does he mean by that?
AI theater is our tendency to dress up machines to look like us. It's the anthropomorphism trap. We are social creatures, so we project humanity onto everything, our pets, our cars, and definitely our computers.
We give them names.
We do. Think about IBM's Watson playing Jeopardy a few years back. Do you remember what it looked like on the show?
Oh, right. It had that swirling blue avatar on the screen.
Yes.
And it spoke in that calm, confident male voice. It was very present. It really felt like a contestant standing there.
Exactly. But here is the reality of that. There was absolutely no technical reason for Watson to have a face or a voice.
None.
None at all. It processed text. It was essentially a massive data retrieval engine. But IBM dressed it up to look like a thinking entity because that is how humans relate to things.
We want to see a soul in the machine.
You want it to be like Pinocchio. We want it to be a real boy.
We're obsessed with the idea of consciousness. Like, we want to know if the machine feels happy when it wins Jeopardy or if it knows it's playing a game.
Right. But Kaplan argues this is dangerous because it misleads us about what these systems actually are. He quotes a famous computer scientist, Edgar Dijkstra.
Dijkstra.
And Dijkstra said, the question of whether machines can think is about as relevant as the question of whether submarines can swim.
I love that quote. Can submarines swim? Let's break that down, because on the surface, submarines definitely swim.
Well, think about a fish. A fish swims by flapping its tail, flexing its muscles, and using its fins to push against the water.
Right.
It has biology. It has intent. Now think about a nuclear submarine.
No tail.
No tail. It uses propellers and ballast tanks.
Yeah.
It doesn't swim in the biological sense at all.
Yeah.
But can it move through the water?
Yes.
Can it go faster than a fish?
Yes.
Can it go deeper and carry more payload? Absolutely.
So asking if it swims is just semantics. It does the job of swimming, but it just does it way better.
Exactly. Kaplan says we need to stop asking if computers think like us.
Huh?
They don't have brains or neurons in the biological sense. They don't have desires. They don't fall in love.
Right.
But they can process data and make decisions in ways that are vastly superior to us in specific domains. And if an algorithm can take your job, does it really matter if it has a soul?
That is a very sobering thought. It doesn't need to hate you to replace you. It just needs to be more efficient.
Precisely. And that leads us to his first category of these efficient machines, the synthetic intellects.
These are the disembodied minds.
Yes. Think of these as pure intelligence without a physical body. These are the algorithms living in the cloud. We already mentioned the high-frequency trading bots.
All right, the flash crash.
They are spying on orders and executing trades in microseconds. They care about the economy. They care about math. But let's look at an example that hits a lot closer to home for most of us listening. Amazon.
Amazon. Now, we usually just think of Amazon as a store. I go there, I search for toothpaste, I buy a toothpaste, I leave.
But Kaplan argues Amazon is the ultimate synthetic intellect. Think about the old days of retail. You walk into a shop on Main Street. The shopkeeper might know you, maybe give you a discount if you're a regular.
Sure.
But the price on the shelves is the price. It takes physical effort to change it. You have to get a sticker gun and go to every single item.
It might change once a week when they get a new shipment in.
Right. But Amazon changes its prices millions of times a day.
Millions. That seems excessive. Why would they need to change prices that often?
It is entirely necessary for their model. Amazon isn't just a catalog. It is constantly scanning competitor prices, your browsing history, your location, the time of day, even the specific device you were using.
Wait, really?
Oh, yeah. It knows if you're on an iPhone or a budget Android phone. It is running a massive real-time auction that no human brain could ever comprehend, let alone manage.
Wow.
It's not just a store. It's a synthetic intellect designed to maximize profit extraction from every single interaction.
So when I'm sitting there at 11 p.m. trying to decide if I should buy that fancy toaster, the price I'm seeing might be totally different from the price my neighbor sees.
It's very possible. Or it's different from the price you would have seen at 10 a.m. that same day. You're basically negotiating with an alien intelligence that knows your cards better than you do.
That is wild.
It knows that you look at that toaster 3 times. It knows you usually buy kitchenware on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
It knows your zip code implies a certain income level. It knows your pain point.
It really feels like we're bringing a knife to a gunfight. I'm just a guy wanting toast, and on the other side of the screen is a supercomputer with petabytes of data on human behavior.
That is exactly the dynamic.
Yeah.
You are the amateur. The synthetic intellect is the pro.
Yeah.
And that's just the software side of things. The other side of the coin is what Kaplan calls forged laborers.
These are the bodies, the hardware.
Exactly. These are the systems that interact with the physical world.
Hmm.
Robots. But again, Kaplan warns us not to fall into the humanoid trap.
Right.
We keep imagining robots that look like C-3PO. We want a robot butler that walks on 2 legs and has 2 hands to wash our dishes. But that is incredibly inefficient engineering.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to screw in a bolt, you don't need a hand with 5 fingers. You need a motorized screwdriver that spins at 5,000 RPM.
Exactly. Biology is a constraint, not a goal. Nature gave us legs because we had to run over rough terrain. Nature gave us hands to grasp branches.
Yep.
But if you are designing a machine to pave a road or pick an apple, you don't need legs and hands. Kaplan uses this great analogy of the car. When cars first came out, we called them horseless carriages.
Because we didn't have another word for them.
Right. We tried to make them look like carriages because that's what we understood. We even put whip holders on some of the early models.
Whip holders on a car. That is fantastic. Just in case the engine gets stubborn, I'll give it a smack.
Right. It shows how stuck we were in the old paradigm. But eventually we realize a car isn't just a carriage without a horse. It's a node in a transportation network. It changes the design of entire cities.
We paved the world to accommodate the car.
Yes. We didn't make the car walk on legs to accommodate the dirt roads.
So a self-driving car isn't just a regular car with a robot sitting in the driver's seat. It's a completely different beast.
Exactly. It allows for things like platooning, where trucks drive inches apart on the highway to save fuel, communicating instantly. Or cars that don't even need stoplights because they coordinate their movements through the intersection via Wi-Fi.
It's all connected.
Right. A forged laborer isn't necessarily a single robot. It can be a swarm of sensors and actuators spread across an entire environment.
Like a smart home. Or a fully automated farm.
Yes. Think of a farm where the farmer isn't a guy in overalls on a tractor. It's a network of moisture sensors in the soil, drones in the air mapping crop health, and automated harvesters on the ground, all working in concert.
The farm itself is the robot.
Precisely. No overalls required.
Which brings us to the part of the conversation that usually makes people nervous. If we have synthetic intellects doing the thinking and negotiating and forged laborers doing the moving and the making.
So what is left for us?
Exactly. What is left for us?
This is section 2 of his argument, the economic threat. And the short answer from the book is, no job is safe.
Now, hold on. I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Usually when we talk about automation, economists jump in and say, oh, don't worry, this is the Luddite fallacy. They say that technology destroys old jobs, but always creates new, better ones. We stopped weaving by hand, but we became machine operators and then designers and so on. Why does Kaplan think this time is actually different? Why isn't this just another cycle?
That is the standard economic view. That represents cyclical unemployment. The economy changes, some jobs are lost, new ones are created. But Kaplan argues we are facing structural unemployment.
What's the difference there?
Structural unemployment is when your skills become permanently obsolete. Think of that weaver after the power loom was invented.
Okay.
It didn't matter how hard the weaver worked. It didn't matter if he was the absolute best weaver in the village. It didn't matter if he lowered his wages to almost zero.
The loom was just better?
Better, faster, and cheaper. The weaver's skill, which took a lifetime to master, was suddenly worth zero. He couldn't just upskill to become a loom mechanic overnight.
And Kaplan is saying this is happening to everyone all at once, because usually it happens to one industry at a time. The loom hits weavers, the car hits stable boys.
But AI is a general-purpose technology. It hits cognition, it hits movement, it hits perception. Let's look at the blue-collar disruption first to really see the scale.
Okay.
We mentioned the farm. Kaplan describes the agrobot in California.
The strawberry picker.
Yes. Strawberries are notoriously hard to pick. They are delicate, they hide under leaves. It used to be something only a human hand and a human eye could do without destroying the fruit.
Right.
But the agrobot uses multispectral sensors to see the fruit. And it can actually see in spectrums we can't, to determine the exact sugar content and ripeness perfectly before it even touches it.
That's incredible.
It has robotic arms that gently pluck the berry, and crucially, it works in the dark.
That's the game changer right there. Humans need sleep, robots don't.
It works 24/7. It replaces workers like Elvia Lopez, a woman Kaplan profiles in the book, who has been her entire life in the fields. How can she compete with a machine that never sleeps, never gets injured, never asks for a raise, and picks only the perfect fruit?
She can't. It's impossible.
And then look at the warehouse. We talked about Amazon's brain earlier, but look at its body. They use something called chaotic storage.
I love this concept because it sounds totally insane to a human mind. Chaotic storage sounds like my teenager's bedroom.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it's actually hinder efficient. If you or I organized a warehouse, we'd put the socks next to the shoes and the toothpaste next to the toothbrushes.
Right, we use categorization logic so we can find things.
Exactly. It's how libraries work. It's how grocery stores work.
Yeah.
But Amazon's robots don't need human logic. They need spatial efficiency. So in an Amazon warehouse, a robot might put a copy of a Harry Potter book on a shelf right next to a jar of pickles and a set of spark plugs.
Why? That makes no sense.
Because that's where the empty space was.
Ah.
The algorithm knows exactly where everything is down to the millimeter. It doesn't care about categories at all. This makes the warehouse incredibly dense and efficient, but it makes the human mind completely obsolete inside that building.
A human picker literally couldn't function there.
No, they would be wandering around looking for pickles in the book section.
So the environment itself is being redesigned for the machine.
Exactly. And that is why the human is pushed out. Eventually, the human picker, the person actually grabbing the item, is replaced by a robot arm that just reaches into the chaos and grabs the pickle jar.
So that's blue-collar work, physical manipulation.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of listeners might be thinking, well, that's tough, but I'm a knowledge worker.
Oh, yes.
I went to law school, I went to med school. My job requires judgment. I'm safe.
And here's where Kaplan really drops the hammer. He says, you are not safe. In fact, you might be easier to automate than the strawberry picker.
Easier? How is a lawyer easier to replace than a fruit picker?
Because picking a strawberry requires navigating a messy, unpredictable physical world. You have to deal with mud, wind, leaves, and soft fruit. Law operates in a structured world of text and logic. It's a closed system.
Oh, I see.
Let's look at the legal profession. A huge amount of what junior lawyers do is document review or discovery. They sift through millions of emails and memos in lawsuits looking for relevant evidence. Did they discuss the merger in this email thread?
It is boring, it is time-consuming, and it is incredibly expensive.
And a computer can do it in a second.
Not only faster, but better.
Exactly. Kaplan talks about startups like Judicata or tools for fair document review. Algorithms can scan millions of documents, understand the context, flag the relevant ones, and completely ignore the noise.
And they don't get tired.
They don't miss things because it's 2 a.m. and they've been drinking coffee for 12 hours. They don't get bored.
So suddenly, the entry-level jobs for lawyers, the traditional training ground, disappear. If you can't get that first job doing the grunt work, how do you ever become a senior partner?
Exactly. The ladder is just pulled up, and it's the exact same for doctors. Kaplan brings up IBM Watson again, but this time in healthcare.
Okay.
Think about a diagnosis. A doctor has to rely on their memory, the journals they've managed to read, and their past experience. But medicine is exploding.
There's too much information.
There are thousands of new papers published every single day. No human being can read them all.
So the doctor is always operating on incomplete information?
Always. But Watson isn't. Watson can read every medical journal published every single day. It knows every single drug interaction. It can look at a patient's symptoms and match them against millions of case studies instantly.
So diagnostic skill literally becomes an app. You enter your symptoms, upload your blood work, and the AI says you have a 98% chance of condition X.
Exactly. Now, the art of medicine might remain the bedside manner, the empathy, the holding of the hand, but the technical skill of diagnosis. That is becoming a data problem.
And computers solve data problems better than we do.
Much better.
This brings us to the big societal question. If the robots are doing the picking, the trading, the lawyering, and the diagnosing...
Who gets the money?
Exactly. Who gets the money? Because right now, we trade our labor for money. If nobody needs our labor, how do we eat?
That is the 1% versus the rest problem. According to the book, it's getting worse. He contrasts the wealth of someone like Jeff Bezos with the struggle of a perfect employee he knows, a guy named Emmy Naster.
Tell us about Emmy.
Emmy is the guy who did everything right. He worked overtime. He cleaned up after lunch. He was dedicated, loyal, hardworking. He followed all the rules of the 20th century.
Right.
And yet, he struggles to make ends meet. He's living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because the system is actively squeezing labor for efficiency.
And then you have Bezos.
Kaplan points out that Bezos makes more money during a round of golf, just the 4 hours he's out on the course, than a typical college graduate earns in an entire lifetime.
That is a staggering statistic. It almost doesn't compute.
And it's not because Bezos works a billion times harder than Emmy. You physically can't work that hard.
Right.
It's because Bezos owns the assets. He owns the synthetic intellects and the forged laborers. Kaplan argues that Karl Marx was actually half right.
Whoa, bringing in Marx, that's a bold move for a Silicon Valley guy. Let's unpack that.
Marx thought the fundamental struggle was capital versus labor. But he assumed labor meant people, and capital meant the rich people who needed that labor. It was people versus people.
The factory owner needed the workers to run the machines. There was a mutual dependency.
Right. If the workers went on strike, the factory stopped. The owner had to listen.
So what's changed?
Kaplan says the game has completely changed. It is now capital versus people.
Because the capital doesn't need the people anymore.
Exactly. If you can own a fleet of robots that farm, manufacture, and ship goods, and an AI that handles your legal and accounting work, you just don't need the poor. You don't need the working class.
You might not even need the middle class.
Right. The rich can just trade with each other.
That is a terrifying thought. The idea that the economy could just leave us behind, like a train leaving the station while we're all just standing on the platform.
It creates a scenario where we have a growing GDP. The country looks incredibly rich on paper, the stock market is booming, but we have massive unemployment and poverty. Productivity completely decouples from labor.
Okay, I think we have successfully terrified everyone listening. We've established that the robots are smart, they are taking our jobs, and the rich are going to leave us behind.
It paints a grim picture.
Before we all go build bunkers in the woods, let's talk about solutions. Because Kaplan doesn't just drop this bomb and walk away. He proposes some fixes. And the first one attacks the education system directly.
Right. He says our current model, go to school for 4 years, learn a trade, do it for 40 years, is broken. It assumes skills stay relevant.
Which they don't.
But in an age of AI, skills become obsolete in 5 years, maybe less.
He calls it vocational versus vacational training, which is a great turn of phrase.
It really is.
Ah,
Vocational training is learning for fun or personal growth, art history, philosophy, literature.
which is great.
We should do those things.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily going to pay the rent in a robot economy. Vocational training is learning a specific skill that the market needs right now.
But here is the problem with that. If the skills change so fast, how do you pay for the training? I can't keep taking out $50,000 in student loans every 5 years to learn the new thing. I'd be in debt forever.
And that is exactly where his radical idea comes in, the job mortgage.
A job mortgage? That sounds so weird. Like I'm mortgaging myself. How does that even work?
It's a free market solution. Instead of you taking a loan and bearing all the risk, investors pay for your training. Let's say there is a huge demand right now for robot repair technicians.
Okay.
A company or a hedge fund pays for your education, tuition, books, maybe even a living stipend. In exchange, you commit to paying them a percentage of your future earnings, say 5% for 5 years, but only if you get a job in that field.
Oh, I see. So the incentive is completely flipped. Right now, a college gets paid whether you get a job or not. They can teach you a useless degree, take your money, and basically say, good luck out there.
Exactly. In the job mortgage model, the investor only makes money if you make money. If the training is bad, or the skills aren't actually in demand, or the market shifts, they lose their investment, not you. It forces the education system to be ruthlessly practical and aligned with the actual job market.
It effectively securitizes your future labor. That sounds a little sci-fi dystopian to some people, doesn't it? It's like selling shares in yourself.
It is a bit, but Kaplan argues it's much better than the current system where you bear all the financial risk.
Right.
It treats your labor as an asset that can be invested in, just like a house.
It gives you liquidity.
Right. It allows you to pivot your career without going bankrupt.
Okay, I can see the logic there. But that only solves the skills gap. That helps me get a job if there is a job available.
Correct.
But what if the robots just take all the jobs? What if there's simply no work for humans to do at all? A job mortgage doesn't help me then.
And that leads to his second big solution, broadening asset ownership. Kaplan proposes something called the Public Benefit Index, or PBI.
What exactly is the PBI?
The underlying premise is this. If robots make all the money, humans need to own the robots, or at least own the companies that own the robots. We need to make sure that the wealth generated by automation is distributed to everyone, not just the guy who owns the patent.
So everyone gets a piece of USA court.
In a way, yeah.
Uh,
The PBI would be a government metric. Companies that have broad ownership, meaning lots of shareholders, profit-sharing plans, employee ownership, they would get a high PBI score.
okay.
Companies that are owned by just one billionaire would have a very low score.
And let me guess, this ties into tax breaks.
Exactly. If you have a high PBI, if you are sharing the wealth you create, you pay lower corporate taxes. Maybe you get preference on lucrative government contracts. If you are hoarding the wealth, you pay much higher taxes.
So it uses the tax code to incentivize spreading the ownership of the automation.
Precisely. So when Amazon's army of robots makes $1 trillion, if that wealth is distributed via dividends to millions of regular people who own stock, the company itself benefits.
The goal is that when the economy grows via automation, everyone gets the dividend check.
Right, not just the guy who built the robot. It's about ensuring that the benefits of this Star Trek technology are actually distributed to the entire crew, not just the captain.
It's a way to save capitalism from itself, essentially. It avoids the guillotine by making sure everyone gets a slice of cake.
That is Kaplan's ultimate hope. He believes strongly in the free market, but he sees that the rules need to be patched for this entirely new reality. The invisible hand just needs a little nudge.
So let's try to recap the key insights here for you listening, because we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We're moving from tools, things we hold in our hands, to agents, things that act entirely on their own.
Yes, and that shift is what decouples productivity from labor. We can make more stuff with fewer people. That is the fundamental economic earthquake here.
And we really have to stop looking for the Terminator. The true threat isn't a robot with a gun, it's an algorithm with a bank account.
Right. We often grant rights to these artificial persons corporations and algorithms. We let them buy property, trade stocks at light speed, and just completely outcompete humans.
And Kaplan's warning is that if we don't change the incentives, like with the job mortgage or the PBI, we are going to end up in a world of massive, unprecedented inequality.
But despite all the scary stuff we've talked about, Kaplan is actually an optimist at heart, isn't he? He ends the book on a surprisingly hopeful note.
He really is. He genuinely believes we can have a future of unprecedented prosperity and leisure. Think about it. If robots do all the hard work, the farming, the